get back to the stream. We got our players sat down, we got Demetris and we got Riccardo. And, you know, the decks might be similar here, but in terms of achievements, we do have a little bit of a comparison here, because, you know, Demetris has got this big list of achievements. Top 8 at Bremen, top 16 at Liverpool, top 4 at the London special event. That is a huge event we have at Worlds. That is very difficult to get that far in. And, of course, that Toronto regional finalist that we've seen before. A really good list, and let's not forget the senior national champion, which is, you know, pretty gosh darned impressive. Riccardo doesn't have those achievements, but that's kind of one of the reasons you're here, trying to make sure that at the end of this event, well, then we're going, oh, Riccardo, yeah, no, that dude went and won Stuttgart last year.
Yeah, a new player to watch for certain. And let's face it, you don't get to this situation, a 4-0 record, playing a deck that takes so many micro decisions to add up towards a big crescendo without being a really solid player. So I'm excited to see how Riccardo navigates this matchup. The rematch has to be something these players have to expect and come across, because Gardevoir is just so popular, and it's certainly one that you have to respect in the room. And there's a lot of back and forth going on here. There's going to be a mixture of attacks with Cresselia, but then your opponent has Jirachi. There's going to be Screamtail. Your opponent has Manaphy. It's trying to work around the possibility of Avery throughout the game as well without ruining all of your engine Pokemon throughout the game. The Greninja's a fantastic option, but sometimes you can go through all your Psych Energy, then it's no longer online. So it's going to be a bit of a back and forth with these resources and keeping your percentages available, because it really does get scrappy. That's what's so intriguing about this one.
No, it really, really is. I'm excited to see where the players go with these, you know, which option they take, what they're actually coveting. And I think you're right, Gardevoir is one of the hardest decks to play in the format. And we see players like Demetris, like Tord, going towards this deck. And I think it kind of goes back to that whole, I draw a lot of cards, I'm going to actually be able to play my deck, so I can put a bunch of options in, and then I can outplay my opponent. I think I am better than other Gardevoir players in the room. So we see prizes going down. Anything catching your eye there, Joe?
Ooh. A few for Demetri, that's for sure. Collapse Stadium's his only way of taking away multi-prize Pokemon from his board. Jirachi is a great protection option against Cresselia, which protects your Curliers quite nicely as well, and the Radiant Greninja limiting his draw as well. So a little bit of a disadvantage as we see the handshake here in round 5. Manaphy start. It's not terrible because it does deny Screamtail at least.
Yeah, I know.
But it's still some more work to do, certainly. And Riccardo is going to go first here. Has a Cresselia lead and a couple of Ball Search cards in that opening hand.
Yeah, that's going to work out quite nicely. Get his first couple out. We got a Fog Crystal as well, which can go and get a basic Psychic Pokemon or an Energy. So that could be quite nice. We got a bunch of draw coming out here. So have a search through the deck, see what's prized, figure out what you want, and there's at least a few Pokemon going to be coming down and hitting straight away here, which is going to be lovely.
Yeah, with so few Ball Search cards in the opening, as long as you have access to Psych Energy attachment turn 1, Riccardo might already be spying an early Mirage Step. Even though you go first, you don't necessarily have to take the first prize in this mirror match. As long as you can keep toe-to-toe, that actually keeps you on your counter catcher, keeps you on your reversal energy. These are big swing cards in the matchup, in any matchup, really. So you might still be incentivized to Mirage Step in this matchup, especially how Riccardo's hand is playing out.
Yeah, Mirage Step is, of course, the other Curlier. It doesn't discard a card from your hand and draw 2. It gets free Curlier out from your deck, just straight onto the bench, like Water Duplicates used to do for Froakie back in the day. So it's one of those, not every Gardevoir player plays it, although it does seem to be getting a lot more popular since Tord told everyone how great it was. But yeah, just let's not worry about searching out the Curlier or any of that. Let's just Mirage Step once, get all your Curlier out and go from there.
And the hand's looking pretty perfect for a Mirage Step. I think there's even the Professor Churro in hand, so you can actually hold your energy attachment, then Churro up Cresselia and go for a Mirage Step next turn, holding level ball. So that's pretty much the only play that Riccardo has access to right now. It's going to be the Mew, though, so this is the other option. You can retreat into Mew and look for more Ball Search cards from this Mysterious Tail.
It does play 4 Battle VIP Pass, does Riccardo, so in theory, like if you haven't drawn any in your opening hand, and then you're going to be using Mew to look at the next 6 cards of Mysterious Tail to try and find an item card, I mean, you've got to think at some point you're going to hit that Battle VIP Pass, and then your other Ball Search can just kind of get you rolling.
Yeah. Oftentimes you can just get a refund on this Mew just for your extra Fog Crystal level ball out, but the ideal situation is indeed that Battle VIP pass. Let's see the top 6 cards. I think Battle VIP is already there. So
literally number 1.
Yeah, paying off nicely for Riccardo here. It has meant that they can't Mirage Step too easily now. They actually still could with Churro plus attachment next turn onto a Ralts that evolves. So the option's actually still open. but this time you're just filling your bench a little bit more with extra rolls here.
Yeah, and that's the decision you're making. Do you put all your rolls down and try and evolve them manually, or do you go for that Mirage step and then get all your Curlier down? Of course, the reason to try and... Oh, he has... No, just the routes for the minute. Thought he was
holding level ball for next turn as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's why just spying, making sure you have that Mirage step available is actually still going to be an option thanks to the Churro supporter that's in hand.
That Churro is going to be a big deal. I mean, the argument basically is, do you want to try and get them up manually so that you can start drawing with them next turn, or do you want a Mirage step and then you're starting to draw a turn later, but you've got that guarantee of having them all out and using your resources for other things, kind of saving a few if you need to. So we are passing back over to Demetris. Riccardo, good start. Can
nice.
Demetris match?
Really good Ultra Ball. Yeah, getting rid of 2 Psychic Energy is definitely helpful, especially actually because Demetris has prized Radiant Greninja, so it's going to become even more vital that that was the early discard. Demetris also going to go for the early Mysterious Tail Mew as the option here, looking for additional ball search. I think both players are utilizing quad Battle VIP pass. It has been a bit of a debate in the community. There has been some high placing deck lists that have foregone Battle VIP pass, just going for heavy accounts of Ultra Ball, heavy accounts of Fog Crystal, and then having stuff like Luminion V in the deck list. Both of these players, however, are going for Battle VIP pass builds.
Yeah, and I think it's very standard. Battle VIP Pass is one of those weird cards. When we first saw it, people did not really realize quite how good it was. And then a few players started playing it, and now it's every deck. We do see a very early Iono coming down. So I'm guessing Demetris' hand is not particularly strong. Turn 1 Iono in a Gardevoir deck? It's not the ideal.
Well, you are seeing a decent amount of cards here. Battle VIP Pass already, and a number of Curlier. Wow, 3 natural Curlier coming to the hand. You can retreat into your Mew as well this turn. You've already got 3 Rolts possibly coming onto this board.
This is looking
really good.
That was a good Iono.
Yeah, you don't need to Mirage step when you just naturally draw into all of them for next turn.
Yeah, that is looking pretty
in the deck naturally before the Mysterious Tail as well.
Yep.
Demi's going to see, yeah, so you still have decent ratios with the items available, and it means that you have more flexibility now with your Mysterious Tail. You can sort of react to what you see, which is also reasonable because you already had the Battle VIP pass to get 2 more Rolts, so that was always going to be the pick no matter what. This way, if you saw something like a rare candy, it could change your avenues for next turn.
An excellent point, and that's where Demi went there. We do get the Battle VIP pass coming out for those other couple of Rolts, and now you've got your 3 Rolts, you've got at least 2 Curlier in hand ready to go next
3.
turn.
I think it's 3.
Oh, we got 3. Is that been a Mirage Step as well, is it?
Yeah, Mirage Step's one of them.
Okay, and 2 Refinement Curlier. Plus, you got your Mew left in the active for potential Mysterious Tail shenanigans. And both players, it seems to be taking slightly different routes here, but both seem to be getting what they need. Now we see the Radiant Greninja coming down almost like a boast from Riccardo there. Look what I've still got access to. And then draws a Screamtail and an Iono from concealed cards.
Yeah, I'd like to see the Iono come in this turn, because if you can Iono now, you can work towards a rare candy or a Gardevoir. Neither are currently in hand, but going to refine first. Picks up more Gardevoir pieces.
Couple of routes there.
Now you're having to Iono for 6 and then have 6 cards from the Mysterious Tail to try and get a rare candy play. And I think that's still your best line. But we're saying no to an attack here by evolving up into another Curlier and just going to refine the hand away. It's just going to Iono here as well to get a fresh hand. It's still okay. There's no guarantees that Demetris is going to get any aggression on their own end. So this is still a nice play, and you're still trying to develop on your side of the field, even without pressurizing with Cresselia necessarily.
Yeah, Mirage Step is out, and we got 3 Curlier, or 2 Curlier down, hopefully looking for that third. Doesn't seem to oh, there's an Ultra Ball in hand, so can go and get it if he wants to here. And then go from there, of course. Might be trying to find a rare candy Gardevoir to just start going quickly. Does hit the candy off that refinement.
It's going to be handy for next turn, certainly. Still a Mysterious Tail to go. And again, it's just building pieces for next turn more than anything else. There can't be any aggression coming out, but a Fog Crystal could chip in for next turn and start getting Riccardo's own Psych Energy towards the discard pile as well, because you are going to need a few here, especially if you are using Cresselia. You naturally scatter so many energy around your board. It naturally becomes a bit of an issue for you towards the late game. We have to try and weave in retreats throughout the game to get access back to those Psychic Energies. So the Fog Crystal's a nice pickup here.
Yeah, I reserve the right to get excited about a rare candy for next turn. Obviously, the routes came down this turn, but it's still nice to see those pieces coming out that they're looking for. So back over to Demetris now. We got 3 routes down. How many of them can evolve? I mean, we had 2 Curlier in hand, and then the Iono came down and gave 2 Level Ball.
That's fantastic. Gives you great access towards those refinements again. Demetris still has 1 Rots, which could be rare candied into as well. So still a few things to dig out here. Ideally, Demetris can use their own Cresselia or Screamtail to knock out a Curlier on Riccardo's bench. I think that's pretty much the line that he's going to look for, and immediately has the Artisan to play here before using Iono as well. I'm surprised I've not seen an immediate Artisan here to grab Screamtail or Cress, but I guess, again, it's one of those situations where Demetris can react to the Iono here.
Yeah, he's certainly got a bunch of options. He's going to grab a whole bunch of stuff off the owner there. We do see a third level ball, so we could see triple Curlier if we wanted to here. Or
I want to see rare candies. I want to be swinging.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Or we could potentially hit a rare candy, because unlike Riccardo, Demetris does have a routes down, which has been down for a turn. Fog Crystal and Super Rod is not going to get you there, though.
No, I think Demetris is going to have to settle for another refinement here.
Oh, that is...
It's not coming together. Even with the Mysterious Tail, you have one more refinement. The refinement would have to hit one of the pieces, then Mew can hit the other to rare candy. Oh, no, you just evolved up. What am I saying?
Yeah, unfortunately, there is a fourth routes coming down, but it cannot evolve this turn. But like we say, you get a couple of turns in the Mew and the Gardevoir mirror match where you're using stuff like Mew for Mysterious Tail, you're building up his Curlier, and then we start seeing the back and forth come down. But Riccardo, having gone first and having gone a decent board up turn one, is going to potentially have that, the start of the aggression.
I was going to say, and it's definitely an Avery standoff now. Look how powerful for both sides of the board an Avery is going to be here. If we can see an Avery plus Screamtail or Cresselia play from Riccardo as it passes over to him, this is going to be a huge, huge swing in the game. Yeah. Let's see what Riccardo can draw towards here.
Avery lets you draw 3 cards, and then your opponent has to go down to 3 bench Pokemon, basically force them to get rid of 2 of their bench.
It would be so strong here.
Yeah, and you get the Screamtail, and then kind of forcing your opponent to keep the Manaphy and get rid of 2 of the Curlier.
I feel great.
I feel great for Riccardo.
So many cards to see as well. From the refinements, from the Greninja, from Mew. Even though the Mew's not helping grab an Avery, it could help you grab a Gardevoir EX piece, which is still required. We're going to see some Ball Search starting off the turn for Riccardo here. Like we say, so many actions, so much draw to see. 2 Avery to draw towards as well, let's not forget. Is playing the second copy, which is kind of a debate in the community as well right now. There's still so much going on with Gardevoir, which we haven't landed on, which just shows how powerful of an archetype it is.
I'm not sure we're ever going to land on a perfect Gardevoir deck, because there's just too many different options, and you've got play styles to consider, and it's not one of those decks I can pin down too easily, because you've got all the standard stuff you've got to have, but then there's just too many other options. Like, you know, Screamtail, when Paradox Rift dropped, there was a real question about how good Screamtail really was, and then it turned out that it's largely a staple now, but that could change in a heartbeat.
We've got the first Radiant Greninja, then we have more refinements to come. An easy choice of Battle VIP Pass can hit the discard pile here.
Nice.
I don't see any Avery just yet. That's still something we're looking towards. We have more refinements. We also have Shining Arcana already in hand.
It's not hit it.
Energy isn't too helpful.
Fog Crystal's not going to get you there.
At some point, Riccardo's going to have to think about whether or not to weave in Mysterious Tail just to thin the deck of a non-Avery card here.
Oh, no, it does have... He's going to go and get an energy, so this could be...
Yeah, just more deck thinning, really. You still need to hit an EX, so Mysterious Tail for Ultra Ball is still a huge pickup here.
Yeah, of course, 2 of those Curly were down last turn, so they can refine and then evolve up afterwards. That's absolutely an option. It's one of the really fun things about Curlier. It is also a question of how long do you keep the Curlier, which ones do you evolve, when do you evolve them, etc. But they've done their job for the minute. An EX to start attacking would be lovely. Now you do get that third Curlier down, that Fog Crystal energy goes into the discard. And we've got...
More level ball, more energy. These are great cards to hit, but just when there's such a powerful line on the table, you really want to work towards it. We have Mysterious Tail, then we have Shining Arcana as the last effort to draw cards here.
Drawn so many cards. Now we do see the single prize Gardevoir coming down there, which will allow you to draw even more cards. We've got that Shining Arcana, lets you look at the top 2 cards of your deck. Any basic energy can be attached to any of your Pokemon, and the others go into your hand. We do see Gardevoir. The EX.
Yep, even if you're not able to Avery here, you're at least able to launch an attack, and even just using Cresselia for a knockout on any of these Curlier is still valuable here. Mysterious Tail going to finish off the turn.
Oh, there's an Avery, but you can't grab an Avery off a Mysterious Tail.
No, just tantalizing out of reach. Unfortunate, because it would have been such a huge swing turn here, let's be honest.
Huge, and Mew showing you the cards you couldn't have is just a little bit mean. It's not very festive, frankly.
At the very least, we will see Riccardo initiate the prize race here and start taking out some draw power from Demi. So don't feel too bad for Riccardo. Still in a pretty good spot here and still has a really nicely developed board state.
Yeah, both players have been able to get, you know, the basics of what they need here, but the big swing turn for Riccardo just wasn't on the cards. So now, I mean, presumably you evolve up into the EX and then you pick an attacker.
It's got to be Cresselia, right?
It's got to be Cresselia.
You want to take out some refinements. You've just evolved up into a ton of yours, so you've lost a little bit of draw power. You want to keep on a level footing with the draw throughout the game.
And Riccardo has done a really good job of getting energy into the discard. We've seen it being peppered in for the past couple of turns. So he's got plenty of energy in the discard to accelerate with your Gardevoir. And then, of course, every time you attach an energy, you've got to take 2 damage. But that's where Cresselia comes in, because Cresselia moves 2 damage counters from each of your Pokemon to one of your opponents. Does not have to be the active. So Cresselia, you attach all the energy, get the damage, but then Cresselia gets to move the damage onto one of those Curlier. You take a prize, and you've got a bunch of energy on the board, but you don't have a bunch of damage on the board, and then you're basically saying to Demetris, right, you go now.
We're kind of doing a great job of demonstrating what the Moonglow can do here to knock out a Curlier with the 80 damage. There wasn't any damage showing on the Curlier, but it definitely was damage just from the Psychic Embrace. So 80 is the amounts that we're hitting onto Demetris' bench. Let's see if Demi now can find a way towards Avery, because, hey, it's looking pretty good again.
It is. I mean, Avery is a big card, like you say, being able to hurt your opponent's bench, and there's nothing on Riccardo's side of the board he's been willing to get rid of. The Cresselia, because it's more easily recovered, is the obvious one, but it's not on the bench, so it can't be discarded. So I suppose you lose your Mew, but that could be useful, and then one of the others is going to be very painful.
Yeah, and especially because a Screamtail could come in this turn. If you can Screamtail the Arcana Gardevoir, you're really removing a lot of resources from Riccardo. It's one of your better attackers, which is a single prize option, and it's also, of course, attacking the draw engine of Riccardo. We're going to see a counter catcher play here. That also indicates to me that Demetris is going to look for...
Oh, he's got the Avery, Joe. Yeah. He's got the Avery. You've been calling it for a couple of turns now, and that is brilliant. So, I mean, with the Greninja in the active, I suppose you kind of have to go Cresselia and Mew, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's going to be those.
Yeah, you have to, because the others are just too gosh darn useful.
It's also making the most of Super Rod there. Just one Pokemon that you can put back with Super Rod, whereas if you remove big parts of your Gardevoir line, it's going to be much more difficult to recover those and more stringent on the rods. So definitely the right choice here, as Demetris can continue with the turn. And I feel like a Screamtail is still a really good choice here. You bring up the Greninja to make the Avery more tricky, but also so that you are forcing more from Riccardo, having to attach to pay retreat, and you're still going to be taking out key threats on their bench.
Yeah, we did see a rare candy into a Gardevoir EX there. Now we see Mysterious Tail with the Mew. One thing which does bear repeating here, that Greninja is not a psychic Pokemon, so you can't accelerate energy with the EX to retreat it. You've got to actually find the energy in your hand. One of the reasons that is such a good target for something like a counter catcher. Snorlax loves it.
Sure
Big
does.
fan.
Looks like it's going to be the Cresselia from Demetris here. Similar function, but this time you're going to take out a Curlier rather than a Gardevoir EX with those 4 energy, and it's going to be just a response knockout. Cresselia, Moonglow reversing on the other side of the field, and you can see just how devastating that Avery was. Riccardo's board, he's got a lot of work to do this turn to sort of get recovering where he was on the previous turn.
Got to feel a little bit bad when you play 2 Avery and whiff, and your opponent playing 1 Avery hits it on the perfect turn. But these things happen, and now Riccardo needs to go into recovery mode. There's 1 of each Gardevoir down. There's no Curlier down. You're drawing 2 cards, plus potentially an extra 2 with Greninja. But we do see that Screamtail coming down very quickly here, and we like Screamtail. For 2 energy, it does 20 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon, again, anywhere on the field, for each damage counter on this Pokemon, and of course you get the damage from accelerating energy with Gardevoir. Good job he started Manaphy, I suppose.
Yep. As you can see, it's a very helpful card right now. Again, Riccardo's still going to be drawing towards Avery. Hasn't found it yet, so it could be a great option. Iono also a great option this turn. As we see the Shining Arcana draw a couple here. I think I see some... Well, Professor Churro's not ideal right now. You could still use Screamtail just to go through the active Cresselia. So again, you're just protecting your engine as much as possible and not running out of draw power. And
Most
again,
expendable Pokemon you've got,
yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. And again, it's that super odd thing. If you can just get back Screamtail and Cresselia and have plenty of attackers remaining, that again just keeps as much draw in the back as possible. You're trying to protect this whenever you can.
No, absolutely. When your Gardevoir pieces start falling, that's when you start getting into trouble. Now, we do see a manual attachment there to retreat the Greninja into the Screamtail, as you predicted there. The real question is, what can go with it? Still no Avery that I can see, and a fairly clogged up hand with no refinement.
Yeah, and that's the power of the Avery plus Moonglow reverse combination. Riccardo lost so much of his draw that hasn't been able to find Avery or Iono here. You only need 120 damage for Screamtail, so that's the debate here, whether or not you throw the extra energy onto a Screamtail. Your energy can get locked up all over the place, so I do like this choice the most.
Yeah.
Just put 60 damage on you so that you can Roaring Scream through the active. It's not forced to the bench. So it seems like the best way to keep up in the prize race here. And Riccardo did do a decent job of re-establishing at least one Ralts there. So looking like a solid line that turn.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad. And of course, you know, there's a decent chance your opponent's only playing one Avery, so you might get a bit of a break here for a turn or two and actually start to keep your board developed. And you are up. You know, you took the first prize, your opponent took one, you took one. You are keeping ahead in the prize race as it stands at the moment, which is a nice one. But you need to make sure you can keep that going. Demetris has got a better board set up in terms of drawing cards for the moment. You've got the EX, you've got the couple refinement Curlier, and you've got that Manaphy, which actually started to pull away. Oh, snap.
Yep.
There's no Manaphy on the other side, Joe.
Whatever Riccardo can do, Demetris can do better. Once again, going to bring up this Radiant Greninja, which is just so frustrating for Riccardo to have to spend energy attachments retreating rather than drawing. And this is a really crucial choice from Demetris. Really clever, I feel, and is going to weave in the Iono now. Demetris actually had a giant hand size. He's not shuffling his deck right now. That's his hand that he's shuffling. But is going to continue to reload cards with at least his other refinement that's in hand. So I do like hurting the resources of Riccardo, and a Roaring Scream back into a Gardevoir piece from Riccardo is, again, really solid from Demetris here. Locking energy onto your opponent's Screamtail is really nice as well.
Yeah, this is when I like Iono a lot better. When you've used Counter Catcher to trap something in the active, and you went after their bench last turn, and you're only putting them down to 4 cards. This is where Iono really comes in. Now, Demetris does go for the full 4 energy on Screamtail.
Yep.
Can't do any more, you wouldn't be allowed, but that gets the Gardevoir, and there's no draw on Riccardo's side of the board outside of that Greninja right now. There's no Refinement Curlier, there's no Shining Arcana Gardevoir. That is the engine for this deck a lot of the time. Everyone can play Radiant Greninja. That's not special. The other ones that make Gardevoir special, and that's what Demetris has gone after. Between the Cresselia last turn, the Avery, and then the Screamtail, really gotten rid of everything.
Yeah, Demetris has been clinical this game. We finally see a Super Rod from Riccardo, can start to get some of these resources back. Of course, wants to rebuild those Curlier and Ralts on their side of the field. I think has finally drawn into Manaphy as well. On their side, but of course Demetris does have their own Manaphy developed, so you're likely having to Roaring Scream through the opponent's Screamtail. Let's not forget, Riccardo's still ahead in this prize race, and Demetris has started to use a couple of their key defensive options. They've used 2 counter catchers already this game, so it can still be difficult towards the late game for Demetris to take a 2-prize knockout. You're able to get there with reversal energy, which is kind of the big thing you go for on Gardevoir EX, but Riccardo only needs to take a prize a turn because they still have Professor Churro, and they have the option to collapse Stadium as well, so they can just keep taking 1 prizes turn by turn by turn, and eventually just deny a 2-prize knockout from Demetris and sort of cruise over the line. So Demetris is doing everything here to make it tough for Riccardo, but Riccardo's still ahead in the prize race, and that's still how you win a game of Pokemon.
I mean, yeah, taking all your prizes before your opponent, that is pretty gosh darn important when you're trying to decide who's going to win.
Ooh, Manaphy coming down, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So now you're really limiting your draw.
That's the thing. You've got Radiant Greninja and
Oh man, didn't attach to the active either. Now you have to draw back into an energy to attach just to remove your Greninja now.
You have an energy to attach.
I believe there was reversal energy, and if you're staying ahead all game, I feel like just throwing it on Greninja's fine here.
It's not a bad idea. It does not seem to draw an energy.
Oh, man.
So that Greninja, and yeah, that Greninja's staying in the active here. And like you say, we've got a Manaphy, we've got a Screamtail, we've got Cresselia, we've got a Greninja. That is 4 of your 6 Pokemon taken up with non-Gardevoir pieces. That's generally not the recipe for success with Gardevoir. And I mean, if that Greninja is stuck in the active, Demetris is about to go ahead in the game, and I'm not sure he's giving it up if the game keeps going like it is.
We can see at least one more refinement. That could give Riccardo a way back into energy.
Yes.
But like I was just saying, Riccardo still has all of their defensive cards that maybe just going behind is better for you now at this point in the game. Like, it's actually a question at this stage. Your board is slightly worse, but foregoing, like, being ahead gives you access to like, some really big power spike cards in your own deck. It's actually a debate, I feel. Like, it could be intentional to have not attached to this Greninja here.
No, you make an excellent point there, Joe. You know the deck very, very well. Very well put. We do see that Curlier coming down, which will give access to that refinement. Don't have
Card's strong, though.
Pardon?
Every card is strong in this hand. There's Countercatcher, there's Churro, there's Avery. There's no easy choice for this refinement.
I want all of those cards.
Yeah, me too.
They're all really good.
That's going to be the Churro that goes. I believe there's Power Pad in the deck list, so you can recover this at some point. No, there's no Power Pad, actually.
Had to be Churro, though. Counter Catcher's too good for picking off bench Pokemon, and we saw what Avery did for Demetris earlier, so I think it had to be the Churro that went, but it's still a horrible decision. You love having something like a Battle VIP pass just to get rid of, or an energy.
Riccardo eventually does find the reversal energy and does swing it onto the Radiant Greninja, so is eventually going to be using Roaring Scream into Demetris' active Pokemon.
Yeah, the Manaphy on the bench is stopping any other shenanigans, so it's going to be Roaring Scream on Roaring Scream action here.
Oh, or Roaring Scream on Cresselia instead.
Oh, I don't mind this at all, because here you can go after the bench.
This attacks the draw engine a lot more.
Yeah, I prefer this one. I like being able to take out that Curlier. Riccardo must be getting jealous at this point, because Demetris has had more draw than him for the entire game. It's time to start evening things up a little bit.
My big concern for Riccardo now is that there's 3 energy on Screamtail, there's 1 energy randomly floating on your EX, there's a floating energy on your Curlier. You're going to find it tricky to deal with Demetris' Gardevoir EX if you have so many of these energies scattered around your board. That's the one thing that's putting me off this play.
You want them on your attacker, or you want them in the discard so you can attach them with your Gardevoir EX wherever they need to go. Like you say, when they're stuck on your random Pokemon, you're kind of stuck there, and either you attack with them or you find a way to retreat and get them in the discard, or they're just stuck there, actively making it harder for you to do your thing and take your prizes, which is not really where anybody ever really wants to be.
Demetris with a pretty quick turn. 1 refinement, and then just Roaring Scream through Cresselia in the active, leveling up the prize race once again. And we're getting towards this sort of end game situation now for both players, where neither of them has that much draw, and it's going to come to a situation where you need a few combination cards to actually close out that game. Let's see how Riccardo can put themselves into a slightly better position to actually continue to have enough draw on the board. I think that's the crucial thing here. I think there's another Super Rod in the hand. If you can get more rolls developed, if you can get into another position where you can just keep drawing through the deck, that you're going to stay on a prize race. Riccardo could win in 2 attacks here, provided they can shimmy enough of these energy off their Pokemon and work towards maybe a Zacian KO.
Yeah.
Or there's also Luxurious Cape in the deck list as well, so Riccardo could be eyeing up a massive Screamtail to finish off a Gardevoir EX if they can remove the Manaphy at some point.
Yeah, that Luxurious Cape gives you extra 100 HP. Means you do give up an extra prize, but it doesn't matter if that's what you use to win the game. So Screamtail at 190 HP can get truly monstrous in terms of the damage it can do. Yeah, and that's what you need. You need that big attack on the Gardevoir EX. And that's the thing. There's no way you can play Gardevoir without having an EX down. So you're always eyeing that up as your kind of final 2 prizes, if need be. If you're not too far ahead in the game, your prize map ends with your opponent's Gardevoir EX. And something like a Luxurious Caped Screamtail, yeah, that'll do nicely.
Yeah, it's going to be the Artisan for Cresselia once again. You can continue to target down Demetris' draw Pokemon if you wish. Also, you can actually just go for Manaphy this turn so that you are lining up the attack with Luxurious Cape a little bit easier as well here.
I like that, because the thing is, if you're trying to use a Luxurious Cape Screamtail, you need Gusting as well. Take out the Manaphy, and all of a sudden that's 1 less piece you need in order to finish out the game next turn.
Quick concealed cards. There's also Avery in hand, and that's also going to be a decision for Demetri. Does he want to get rid of the Manaphy or just throw away the Mew? Both of them are limiting factors here. You see 1 more refinement. This is a really nice hand to hold for Riccardo. And if you can deny another Curlier this turn, you're really hurting the draw power from Demetris.
He's playing with the Avery. He's definitely considering playing the Avery. Yeah. It does come down now, so gets to draw 3 cards, and then Demetris is going to have to get rid of, like you say, it's going to be the Mew or the Manaphy. There's no way you get rid of the Curlier.
Yeah, I think I toss Mew here.
Yeah,
as long as you have a decent enough hand, I think that's the best choice, because you really want to protect your... Well, now you give your opponent the option to Roaring Scream your Curly, and that leaves you with no draw power left on this board.
And if I'm Riccardo, that is exactly what I'm about to do. I'm going after that Curlier. I like the idea of keeping the Manaphy, because again, you know, if you know Riccardo needs to go after your Gardevoir to win the game, just make it harder for them to do so. Now a Luxurious Cape Screamtail can just go after the bench. So, I mean, here I think do you try and attack with the Cresselia here?
Nah.
Just to keep Screamtail for next turn, or do you just go what you got?
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think both rods have been played, actually, so possibly just retreating here to tidy up your energy situation.
That's what I like.
You're still having to throw energy around your board, which is a little bit awkward, but yeah. I guess this is lining up the Cape play the best.
No, I like this. You can then use your Cresselia to take out the Curlier, and then you really don't need much. You basically just need Cape next turn, and then make sure you've got enough energy in the discard.
Yeah, there is still the Collapse Stadium that could be a way to get rid of your energy cards. There's a payment of retreat. At least one of these Pokemon can go. And you're safeguarding yourself as best as possible around Iono, because you're stopping Demetris from drawing towards it themselves.
Yeah, I love this. I think Riccardo played that beautifully. I love the attack with Cresselia rather than Screamtail here. And it's really simple for Riccardo. I'm going after your Gardevoir EX next turn, and I've actually got a couple of different ways to do it. And if I can pull that off, I'm going to win the game. Demetris can't win the game this turn. It's impossible. He can basically do the same thing, and he's been a turn behind all game.
Yep.
He went second, and he has been one turn behind all game. He's about to go down to 2 prizes and enter the I'm coming after your Gardevoir phase of the game, but he might be too late.
Yeah, Demetris looked on a much better board position, but Riccardo's been able to rebuild and has actually come out looking in a much better spot. I think the only thing potentially hindering Riccardo is where these energies are scattered, and they're still having to work towards a big Boss's Orders or Luxurious Cape combo. Either way, it's going to be a combination of cards required next turn.
Yes.
But can Demetris even use Iono here? I'm not sure how much draw is actually in the hand whatsoever.
No, there's no...
This is rough.
There's no Greninja, there's no Curlier, there's no Shining Arcana. So it's just a KO, and now it's just over to Riccardo. Can Riccardo get the KO on that Gardevoir here? I mean, he's got ways to do it. He can Boss's Orders it into the active and combine with a Zacian, or he can try and get a Screamtail with Luxurious Cape and attack it on the bench. Now the Manaphy's gone. There are different options.
Yep.
Just eyeing it up here. Gardevoir EX. It's not going to be able to get the KO. What it can do is retreat and put 2 energy in the discard, though.
We've got to be doing that. We've got to work towards Collapse Stadium. Like you said, Boss's Orders or Luxurious Cape both get the job done here. I'm really not sure how many Psych Energy are actually in the discard pile at this stage. I know that Cresselia's just been KO'd, but I can't actually see just off to the screen right now how many other energy are around. A few draws to be had here as well with refinements. I don't think there's many energy remaining in the deck for this Radiant Greninja draw cards, so it's by no means a set deal here. Yeah. Riccardo, at the very least, could just take another single prize KO plus Iono, and that's still a horrible situation for Demetris to come back with a 2 prize KO.
Yeah, makes it quite difficult. It means you have to play around with your own Zacian, Boss, etc. off an Iono to 2 with no draw on the field, which is the crucial thing here. I've spent so much time, Joe, talking about the fact that all Gardevoir does is draw everything it needs, and, well, this is a mirror match, so all they've been doing is going after the draw engine all game.
That's what I said. It gets so scrappy. It gets so messy. This is real Pokemon right here.
I think scrappy is a good way to describe it. Real Pokemon, I'm going to leave that to chat to figure out if that's appropriate.
I'm loving this. I'm absolutely loving this.
Oh, no, this is fantastic. This game is really fun. I think scrappy is the way to go. We do see that Jirachi coming out here.
Yeah, I think it's just a thin. I think it's the pre-Iono play here. I think Iono is the strongest choice because, again, you're just leaving Demetris with an awful board position.
And it's worth noting, of course, Iono you shuffle and put on the bottom of your deck. So you can thin a card and it goes back in, but it goes in at the bottom. So you're not going to redraw it. Turns out...
First, yeah, not too much help. Just a Ball Search and a Gardevoir EX. I think that doesn't change too much, actually. So it still may end up being... Well, you could Avery for an additional card, I suppose, and you get to hold the remainder of your hand if you're just cycling towards a piece here. But I think Iono has to be the best choice, with Demetris holding on to a huge chunk of cards.
Yeah, because all those cards go to the bottom, and then you're only drawing 2, but you're drawing 2 cards that aren't in your hand. So, no, I do kind of like that.
Shining Arcana available here.
Oh, I like this one as well. Refinement into Shining Arcana. Draw a couple more cards.
Just realigning that Gardevoir. It can use its ability as soon as you evolve. I think Boss's Orders is in the hand, but it is going to be an Iono now. We could still win the game with a Collapse Stadium pickup as well as the Luxurious Cape here. We don't need to have Boss's Orders to take a 2 prize KO because Roaring Scream can get there.
And I don't think he had the board, really. I mean, he already had 5, 6 Pokemon out, 5 on the bench. So I don't think the boss's orders was going to get there, unfortunately. So what do we see? It's a Psychic Energy and...
Psychic Energy's a good one. You can still use concealed cards. See the payment of retreat here. This will be an indication. It's going to be the Gardevoir actually coming into the active. You could even have used Memory Skip here with Roltz for 10 damage. I think that's actually my preferred option this turn to take a prize. It just keeps more draw power on your side, but looks like it's going to be a Brainwave.
Yeah, I think it has to be a Brainwave here. There's really not much else going on.
Scratched with your Scream Tail as well.
Oh, Scratch, Memory Skip, all these attacks that we love. I
really like weaving in wonky attackers in the matchup. Just protecting your Gardevoir line is actually so huge.
No, because these are 2... I mean, if this goes down, that's 2 fewer cards Riccardo's going to be able to see next turn. Whereas, like you say, you could have got the KO with a Route. You're giving up 1 prize regardless. So if you do give this up, that's 2 fewer cards you've got. So here we see the Super Rod. Now, Demetris can win the game this turn. Got to go after the Gardevoir EX. You basically need boss's orders and a Zacian.
Zacian's in hand, but I think it's only Iono. So I think Demetris has to go into the active with Gardevoir and hope it's too chunky, and also have to get Manaphy back so you don't just lose immediately to a Roaring Scream. It's tricky. Again, the good news is there are energy scattered around this board, so there's no guarantees that Riccardo can close on even this slightly damaged Gardevoir EX.
No, and I think you're right. Just put the biggest, bulkiest thing up and just hope, because Riccardo's down to 1 prize here. So here we do see the Iono coming down, and Riccardo's going to be on a 1-card hand. Demetris is going to be on a 2-card hand. There's not a huge amount of draw. And actually, to be fair, if Demetris can put him... There's no KO coming out, though.
Yeah, I think that's...
You can't KO.
Oh, you can Mysterious Tail to try and find Ultra Ball or Nest Ball, and that would get you Manaphy to protect yourself from Roaring Scream. But I think the Roaring Scream should just be checkmate here.
Yeah, you can't take a KO because any energy would then put you in range of Scream Tail, and it looks like we have a concession from Demetris, and Riccardo will go up 1-0. So after all of that, it is the player without the big list of achievements who is in the driver's seat in this mirror match, and Demetris got some work to do to try and salvage this match.
Yeah, and I think there's only 15 or so minutes left on the clock, and that is going to be tough for a mirror match to even conclude a second game. Riccardo, with a really excellent display there, was able to have that rebuilding situation with their attackers. I think showed a lot of good prowess with the archetype, using your Cresselia, using your Scream Tail, reacting nicely to an Avery, working in a ton of attackers, having that line towards the later game with Luxurious Cape, but also just making sure that you're constantly pressurizing those Curliers. I think that's always the name of the game. The Avery helps you do that.
Oh, yeah.
But then also following up with those spreading attacks are going to be massive here. So you just leapfrog whatever's in your opponent's active position and just continue to take out their draw power, because Gardevoir's not all that when it can't draw what it wants.
No, and that's the thing. The thing that makes Gardevoir so good is the draw power. Having that refinement, having that Shining Arcana, having a sealed cards with Greninja, and potentially drawing like 10 cards a turn a lot of the time. If you set up, you're drawing 10 cards a turn, in addition to your draw for the turn, in addition to your supporter, that makes a huge difference. When you're drawing 2 cards a turn, that's not anywhere near as good. And you got to say, Riccardo going first in that last game, that did seem relevant in the end. Demetris was just a turn behind all game. If Demetris hadn't been down to, you know, his opponent having 1 prize, he could have reached a little bit in that last turn, taken a KO, and said to Riccardo, can you take 2 prizes this turn?
Right, and I think it was a case of both players missing a little bit here and there. It took a long time for Riccardo to actually weave in their own Avery, which would have been huge, as we are seeing some prize cards. So some awkward ones there for Riccardo, but also awkward for Demetri. 3 of their Ionos.
Ooh, that's a lot of Iono
cards, as well as a couple of the Gardevoir pieces. Demetris plays 4 copies of Iono, and it's a big card in the matchup. We've just said that the draw power is limited, so that's some pretty big prizes. But Demetris at least is getting to go first here and has the rip-roaring double battle VIP pass.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. That's not quite your perfect bench. You need 1 more card, but it's almost as good as saying go and pick your perfect bench, and you've started with all 4 routes and that Radiant Greninja in the active turn 1. You were going to search that out anyway.
Yeah, and Demetris has to act fast. No time to look through those prize cards. Got to shuffle it up. Got to get all 4 targets as quickly as possible here. Got to go like the clappers if you're going to win the second game. 13 minutes left on the clock here.
Oh, and for non-British viewers, that means go very, very fast. Love that phrase. So already straight over to Riccardo. Demetris there gets his 4 routes, gets his Radiant Greninja as his starting Pokemon, and then just go. Because, like you say, time is of the essence. A win for Demetris in this match. very, very unlikely at this stage. That would be a huge turn up. But there is a big difference between a tie and a win and a loss, and that's what Demetris is going for here. You can finish 6-2-1 and make it into day 2. So you can have a tie. And, you know, it's not the end of the world. Now, it does make it more difficult to get from day 2 to top 8. You really want to maximise your points. But every point matters, getting into day 2 and then potentially getting into top 8, because, of course, our records do carry on. And unfortunately for Demetris, Riccardo is not in such a hurry and is going to look through his prizes, because actually knowing what's prized, or looking for your deck to figure out your prizes, knowing what's prized, really important.
Yeah, especially in Gardevoir, when sometimes you're looking to Mirage Step, you have many single prize attacking Pokemon which can come in so important in the matchup, even eyeing up the likes of the Luxurious Cape, the likes of your Avery, the likes of your Collapse Stadium and Professor Churro. These are all things you do want to keep track of, and Riccardo is going to be doing so with their opening Battle VIP pass. I think their hand is also really good. They already started with a Mysterious Tail Mew, which is fantastic for them, so they can possibly reach towards even more item cards. Usually we're looking towards more Ball Search to get even more Pokemon developed. I think there's already another Ralts in the hand, so that's fantastic. One Ralts is in the prize card, so that's a small upset, but I think it's definitely manageable for Riccardo on this opening turn, who's going to begin with a Ralts selection from this Battle VIP pass.
Yeah, might want to get a second Pokemon there.
One Pokemon coming out. I think there's a number of basic Pokemon in Riccardo's hand.
Okay.
So this is somewhat of a hedge, I think, against Avery, actually. So you're not giving your opponent the entire 5 Pokemon board state. Here you go, you already have your hand is all Pokemon, actually. Wow.
You are giving your opponent a 5 board state.
Let's do that anyway.
But you had so many Pokemon in your hand you wanted to play, you literally had to get one off Battle VIP Pass, or else you wouldn't be able to play out your hand, which is,
Okay, this hand is actually pretty poor for Riccardo, I'll be honest. This Super Rod is not a helpful card. It's not going to get you towards a Curlier for next turn. This might be the window of opportunity that Demetris needs. If he's going to get a fast win here, it's going to need to have a subpar turn, and that's exactly what Riccardo's had. Yes, got the basics, doesn't have a follow-up supporter or any other draw power in that hand at all.
Oh, wow, that is not good. And for Demetris, it's really simple. Draw cards, evolve up, attack. You want to take a prize this turn, and then next turn, and then next turn, and then next turn. The Gardevoir EX becomes really important here, because you really need to start getting some energy onto the board, and that's really how you're going to be going about doing it. Using concealed cards with Greninja to both draw and get energy in the discard can be good. Same thing with Refinement on Curlier here. So play fast, hope you get a Gardevoir EX, take a prize, and then just keep going turn after turn.
Yeah, more level ball for Demetris and Ultra Ball in the hand, so can continue to dig. Ideally, we're finding a rare candy combination with an EX. That's certainly going to be on Demetris's mind, because this is how you start launching attacks and getting KOs. You can't really do it with any of your Pokemon until we start seeing Psychic Embrace. So great, we've started to get some refinements on the board. This has to come to something pretty quickly, though.
Yeah, it kind of needs to be done sooner rather than later. And taking a prize this turn for Demetris really is a big deal. Every turn you don't take a prize is one more turn Riccardo can use to get set up. Now, Demetris doesn't know how bad Riccardo's hand is, but we do know how bad it is.
Oh, it's bad.
It's very bad. And giving him one less turn to draw out of it, that's a pretty gosh darn big deal.
Man. Just a pass, though. Demetris prized their last refinement Curlier, so had to settle for Mirage Step just to evolve up. To help them out for next turn, no rare candy pressure, and that does give Riccardo not only a top deck, but also a Mysterious Tail towards some Level Ball or Ultra Ball here to get themselves back into a good spot. And actually top decked Level Ball, that's huge.
Yeah, so straight away we got one Refinement Curlier coming in, and this is the thing. If you were able to get, say, the Gardevoir EX last turn for Demetris, get your Cresselia, and then take out one of those routes, you're starting to go away. And then you do that every turn, and you're making it so much harder for Riccardo. Now, you've given them an extra turn, and all of a sudden, they can start getting set up. And we've seen this with Gardevoir so many times. You get one Refinement Curlier. Oh, I got a Level Ball. Now let's go for another one. Oh, I drew a Curlier. And then there we go. It's actually a candy in hand as well.
Yeah, that could also help Riccardo out. If you draw into some Shiny Arcana Gardevoir, that could be huge. Or an EX, and you can start launching your own attacks. I think there are currently no Psychic Energy in the discard pile just yet, so that's also something on the wish list for Riccardo, who's been able to Mysterious Tail to find another Level Ball here. As you said, Ross, there's so many options here to find your Pokemon and continue to cycle through this deck.
Yeah, they just keep going and going here. This is working nice for Riccardo. And also, since we're doing a European regional, I need to tell everyone that the French name for rare candy is Super Bonbon, and that makes me very happy indeed. What's making Riccardo happy here, we've got ourselves another Cresselia Curlier. So, excuse me, another Curlier. Pretty similar names. We're going to be drawing more cards, and that Candy is sitting there. If we could draw a Gardevoir, this could go very nicely. And actually, Riccardo could be the person taking the initiative here.
Let's see the big two from Refinement. Psychic Energy is perfect. You can now use concealed cards, and also we need to start getting some of these Psychic Energy in the discard pile to actually get any value from Psychic Embrace here. We still have one more Refinement which we can evolve into. Boss's Orders, not too handy just yet. Let's see if we can see any draw supporter here. Even Avery is still a solid card. There is Rare Candy for Arcana Gardevoir if you wish.
Yeah, they are
drawing.
Arcana Gardevoir just came off of that Refinement to add to the Rare Candy we already had, so that would get you more cards. But there's not a Routes down, so I don't think you can evolve into it. Well, I suppose you can then, yeah.
You don't need to attack this turn. It's just going to be a pass. Hold everything here. Hold the Rare Candy for potential EX plays if required.
I like this. I like the idea that you can Candy into the EX and keep your 2 Refinement Curlier on the board.
We see the first Refinement from Demetris, and now will Shiny Arcana. As you can see, playing at some pace here. The Arcana hits, so can attach itself immediately to the Radiant Greninja. It's a nice bonus sometimes. This can actually be a real great math fixer for the Shining Arcana Gardevoir in other matchups where the Brainwave naturally is capped at the 240 threshold from putting 120 damage on yourself, but sometimes the Arcanas help you get over the line with turn attachments as well. In this case, Demetris is just trying to cycle through the deck as quickly as possible. That's why we're seeing a worker in addition to everything else here. And can Demetris actually work towards an attack? Yes, we do see Ultra Ball, so an EX can come on this board and he can begin this prize race.
Yeah, and obviously, as we saw last game, it's not a surprise to anyone watching. He's going to be probably looking for a Cresselia to try and take out one of those 2 Curlier on the bench, just to try and cut off Riccardo's draw. There we go. No mucking about. We know Demetris is not going to keep us waiting in this game.
Yeah. It's great to see that a player can have everything lined up when there's so many actions, so many micro decisions going on with the deck that you can play at this pace and try and give yourself as best of an opportunity as possible to close out this second game. Who has finally taken the first prize as we go over back to Riccardo now.
And it's important. It's one of the reasons why the good players do so well, because there comes a point in the game where you have to start rushing. You do not have enough time to play normally, and if you're good with the deck and you'll know what you're doing, you can rush. If you ain't that good, you aren't going to be rushing so much, or you're going to rush and make mistakes, and that is a lot of the time the difference. It's the players that can turn losses into ties and ties into wins just by playing faster without making all those game-breaking mistakes.
Yeah, and Demetris, pretty much before the turn started, knew the ideal line.
Yes.
Wanted to get Cresselia involved, wanted to get the EX developed, all of these things they'd already planned out. So as they were doing these refinements and cycling, they already had ideas of what they wanted to pitch throughout the entire turn before they'd even seen half the cards they'd seen in the turn. So really nice to see the proficiency with the archetype as Riccardo is going to continue here with a refinement. I think tossing away a counter catcher here. Not too big of a deal when you can already screen tail anything you want or Cresselia anything you want, so that's looking pretty okay. More draw from Radiant Greninja now as well. Finally some Psychic Energy hitting the discard pile for Riccardo.
Yeah, and then we see the Mew using that Mysterious Tail, looking at the top 6 cards of your deck, trying to find yourself an item card. That level ball will do very nicely indeed.
You're just going to grab another Ralts immediately from the level ball, perhaps. You could also evolve into another Curlier. There is a Ralts that's been on the bench for a turn, but it is going to be another Ralts re-established now.
Yeah, always got the option of evolving the Ralts into a Curlier, and the Curlier that's just refined into a Gardevoir and go that way, get yourself a little bit of extra draw on the way. But choosing instead to go for the extra routes, just really trying to establish the board. And again, Riccardo's not in a hurry here. Riccardo is going to play his game normally. It is Demetris who is rushing to try and salvage a tie here. Riccardo is going to play at a nice, even pace and just set up just like he did back in game 1. There we see the Brainwaves, the Shining Arcana Gardevoir, grabbing a couple of extra cards.
Not sure if we have access to an EX here, so even if Riccardo wanted to use the EX, I don't think it's on the table. So he's just going to have to pass things over. Maybe he can manually attach to a different Pokemon here. But yeah, can't really come back with any pressure. Could counter-catch the Radiant Greninja perhaps, but no, he's just going to pass things over to Demetris here. Hold on to that for a later turn.
Sometimes the pass is good. That was not a good pass. Demetris now is going to potentially, well, it is going to be going up 2 prizes. Demetris already has the board established to go up by a couple of prizes. Just need to make sure there's enough energy in the discard pile to do so.
Yeah.
But Radiant Greninja is going to help with that.
Certainly does. Gets rid of another Psychic Energy. I think there's at least 3 in there right now. That can deal with the Mew, at least. Demetris is debating another option here, whether or not to Iono. is just going to put 2 onto the active. Of course, you can use the other attack from Cresselia as well. Just go through the active Pokemon. The Lunar Blast is dealing 110 damage, and that's the choice from Demetris. And go down to 4 prize cards remaining with 3 minutes on the clock here. It's going to come down to the wire if we can actually close out this second game.
It is, and actually putting the energy on Cresselia is really nice. I mean, you've talked about it a lot, this matchup, Joe, not having that floating energy around. You don't really want 2 energy on that Curlier and the routes and all of that. So actually, put them on the Cresselia, get the KO, and then when Cresselia goes down, which is going to go down, all 3 of those energy are then available to use from Gardevoir EX. So Riccardo is at least going to take a prize this turn, it seems like anyway.
Yep, has the reversal energy already in hand, so certainly can do that, deny the option from Demetris.
Demetris can do this, you know. He only needs 1 more turn, because you've got the +3 turns. So if Demetris can finish his next... I know you know this, Joe, but if Demetris can finish his next turn before time expires, he will get 2 more turns. So 1 turn before time expires, go down to 3 prizes. 2 more turns to get a single prize and a Gardevoir EX. There is an argument for Riccardo here to actually just not evolve up into an EX and go, you know what? Demetris got 3 more turns. If I don't EX, they can take 3 more prizes. You need to be very aware of the clock in order to do that. But there is an argument to not EX if you know exactly how the clock is going.
I'd be surprised if we did see an EX this turn. There's already Counter Catcher and Reversal Energy, so you can already take anything off the board you'd like from Demetris here. He's going to hold on to both of those options, though. I personally do like attaching Reversal Energy to the active here for a Brainwave. But it is going to get shuffled back to the bottom with Iono. For me, even just bringing up any of the draw power from Demetris is good to make your Iono more powerful, because you are putting Demetris to 4 cards here.
Yeah. And then try and take, you know, like you say, we've got reversal energy. You don't necessarily need the EX here. There's an Avery in hand, but of course Iono's just been played, so none of those shenanigans. We've got a Refinement, gets a Curlier and a trainer card of some description.
We do have an EX
Avery
now,
Avery.
So if you do want to launch an attack with Cresselia, you could take out a Refinement option from Demetris. The EX is going to come onto the board, so we can see a Moonglow reverse play here.
And then this makes the time super important. The door is open for Demetris. I don't think he's going to get 4 more turns, but he could get 3 more turns here. If he's aware of quite how low the clock is and he plays his turn super quickly, he can still win this game and take it to a tie. Riccardo, I liked the reversal energy and just KOing with Brainwave personally. So how fast can Demetris play this turn? This is really important. If Demetris is turn 0, he cannot win the game. If he is turn 1, he can win the game.
Quick level ball, got to shuffle things up if we're going to get the job done here. Honestly, the best choice is just launching any attack right now, but you can't KO with Lunar Blast, so you have to find some other Pokemon. You're going to see the Avery. I think the time is going to dwindle down here, unfortunately.
Oh, he might be just a little tiny bit too short here. Can we get something like a... oh, I was going to say counter catch, but no, he's actually winning the game. He's been rushing, so that ain't going to work. Boss's orders, potentially. I don't think he's played a supporter yet.
The Manaphy, well, there's the Avery choice from Riccardo.
Oh, so he has, so no boss's orders.
I think we've just had confirmation of time, and Demetris knows what that means. 4 prize cards remain, which means Demetris will not be able to conclude this second game within the allotted turns of time, so it is going to be a 1-0 victory for Riccardo here.
Yeah, so close, and like you say, that the big thing there was that Cresselia cannot KO an opposing Cresselia using Lunar Blast, and that means that Riccardo comes in, goes to 5-0 with Gardevoir, taking down one of the top Gardevoir players really in the world right now. Yeah, I feel you with the headphones. How do you think we